The bell has rung and class is in session. Hello once again, Sarah here, ready to bring you another review. This time we're looking at Season 2 of Gen V, Episode 4, titled Bags. Before we get started though, make sure to like, share and subscribe to the channel. Alright, pencils down and listen up. Let's get started. In the last episode, we left off with Jordan coming clean at the Godolphin rally about being the one responsible for putting Kate in the hospital, and it wasn't the Starlighters. Of course, Vought and the Make America Super Again agenda can't have that narrative turned upside down. So they of course tried to turn it into a propaganda that blames the woke left and Jordan being trans. Wow, it's almost like they saw the future. To make up for this snafu, Cypher names Marie the school's new #1 student and sets her up to have a 1v1 fight against Jordan, where the outcome is fixed that Marie would win. However, because she was also in on this and he wants to break her a little bit, Cypher knows the two have a bond and so there won't be any punches pulled. They must go at it for real, or all of their friends will get shipped right back to Almira, including them. Kate kind of fills that middle of the road ideology, where you're not sure which side of the line she truly falls on. On one hand, she's all about the brand and thinking that being super makes her better than everyone else. But on the other hand, she's tired of the volatile side of the spotlight, and especially Cypher, who she's deeply afraid of. Plus her powers aren't working, not completely anyhow. And so her usefulness has kind of fallen to the same realm as Girl with a Tail status. Just a sideshow freak that Vought can prance around for likes and merch sales. I still don't feel bad for her. She made her bed, but she's in a unique spot to do some truly heroic stuff and redeem herself enough to at least not be hated. Okay, spoilers are now inbound, so please skip to the timestamp on the screen if you want to avoid any. Still here? Let's continue. The episode begins with Firecracker attacking the woke agenda, and Jordan Lee having psychological issues stemming from her being trans supposedly. This eats at Jordan not because of the attacks on her character, but because it's all bullshit. And on top of that, she's worried she has made it much worse for her friends, especially Marie, with whom she recently rekindled her romance with. Justine, the podcast Nimrod, even goes as far to make a video lying about an incident where Jordan, in their male form, just whipped his dick out and forced it on her in the girls' bathroom. Marie assures her though that Jordan will not go through this alone. She's down for her, through thick and thin. While waiting to meet with Cypher, they can hear him reaming Kate out in his office, saying some pretty nasty stuff. As Kate leaves his office, she's full on teary and looks at Jordan before tucking her hands into her pockets and pushing past them. In Cypher's office, the trio are joined by Seth Reed, the Vought marketing guy, the same one who had his penis frozen off during a sexual encounter with a super. And he lays it all out for him. The gender bender versus the blood bender bending all the rules, a special fight night event. As we mentioned before, basically Marie is being set up to be the #1 student for taking down Jordan in a 1v1 match. Cypher tells Marie that he's gonna train her personally to use her powers, and if she holds back at any time against Jordan, he will kill her and send all her friends back to Almira. We still do not know what his powers are at this point, so of course Marie takes this very seriously, but still tries to refuse, while Jordan, fearing for Marie's life, accepts the deal. London Thor is so good at the role of Jordan, and my hopes is that she crosses paths with Kimiko in the main series, The Boys, because those two could really fuck some shit up. Anyways, what's really curious about Cypher is that yes, he's working for Vought and upholds their brand bullshit, but that's not really his goal. Whatever his links to Project Odessa are, he's really here to create the perfect superhero, and claims that Marie could be it. That she could even be more powerful than Homelander himself, and actually be a hero, not just in the name, but save actual lives. He does believe this when he tells her this, and while this could all end up being a ruse for some more sinister plot, it adds an interesting layer to his character. Like some militant version of Professor X who's obsessed with protecting the Earth, but without the compassion that either Charles or Magneto have for their fellow super friends. Back in the dorms, Jordan and Marie bring Emma into the fold and think this presents a unique opportunity to not only get some answers on Project Odessa, but also maybe get close to Cypher and find out what his deal is. In order to do this though, they need to bring in Kate, to which Emma exclaims that they're fucking nuts and Kate can go and suck a fat dick and die. Marie comes up with a plan though, and while she's training with Cypher, which will keep him busy, they can use Kate's abilities to swindle the guards at Cypher's home and break into his secret vault room to find out what he's hiding in there. Lizzie Broadway as Emma is also my favourite character in the series, and her character arc in the first season and this one is just amazing, as with each time she gets back up from a loss, she comes back stronger and more heroic than ever. Kate reluctantly agrees to go along with this plan, but she clearly is super afraid of Cypher. Just what are his abilities? She's tried to push him before to use her own abilities on him to read his mind or make him do anything she wants, and he's able to resist it quite easily. However, and this might be a bit of a reach, but in season 1, just like the X-Men, they have these devices which can essentially nerf a super's powers. And given his name, I wonder if maybe he just has some kind of microchip or something implanted in him that allows him to block powers from being used on him, rather than it being an actual ability of his, like some kind of personal bubble force field. As far as I understand, the way the devices work is they give off some kind of sound frequency that isn't perceivable by humans' ears. However, whenever he's on screen, it's like there's a kind of shimmer around him and a very low hum. Anyway, Emma recruits Ali and Harper to the cause. Ali looks up to Emma like a true inspiration to become a real superhero, and we do end up finding out what her powers are. Apparently, she can control her pubic hair in growth and stuff like that, and kind of like Medusa from Marvel Inhumans or Sindel from Mortal Kombat, can use it to attack and stuff like that. Emma is shocked at first, but doesn't make Ali feel bad about it. But when Ali wants to show her, she tells her to keep it in her pants. For now, we get a real bonding moment between Emma and Harper here as well, as in the previous episode, Harper had temporarily absorbed Emma's powers and was able to shrink and grow without hesitation. Emma wants to know how she was able to do that, since to her, she's only able to do it through manipulating her own emotions, either making herself feeling like total shit or making herself feel beyond belief happy. Harper agrees to meet up with her in the training room later, and maybe the two can figure it out. Suddenly there's a knock at the window, and it's Greg, Ali's big brother, and he and Emma know each other too. He's got quite the crush on Emma, but once again, we don't know what his powers are. Hopefully it doesn't involve his pubes or anything around his nether region. He's also a starlighter, and big props to him for wearing a They Live t-shirt with a picture of the alien on it and the word obey. While at Cypher's house, Jordan and Kate kind of have a real talk with each other, airing out all the shit between them. And while they don't go back to being besties by any means, they're more like frenemies, bordering on being teammates now. Now again, Kate's powers don't work quite right, and so when she uses them on the guard, instead of him just giving her the keys and letting them inside, he goes and fucks the Gardem gnome instead. I mean, I guess it works. He'll be busy for some time anyhow. The two then make their way inside and use the keys they snagged off the guard to get into the secure vault room, and it's here where they find a strange medical pod machine. Inside is a severely burned person, and my guess is that it's Godolkin, who we saw in the first episode almost making it out of the lab back in the late 60s before it went up in flames. When Jordan snaps a pic of him, he opens his eyes and just stares at her intensely, which both alarms the girls and they bolt it out of there. If that person is Godolkin, then maybe Cypher is his son. That, or maybe possibly he's a protege. It still doesn't explain why Cypher hasn't aged in the last 2 decades since that photograph of the birth of Marie. But it would explain why he knows so much about the project or was involved with it, and eventually allowed to be head of that university. Maybe that's why he's so invested in Marie, that if she hones her blood abilities, maybe she can heal him. Back at the school, Cypher and Marie begin their training. First, it's IV bags filled with blood, which Marie is tasked with moving from one table to another without popping them. After she finally succeeds, they move on to a live subject. Elon Musk the goat. Well, sorry Elon, but the first live test ends with the goat's insides all over the place. Bring in Julia Fox. However, unbeknownst to Cypher, while Marie was attempting to levitate the goat, she also used her abilities to sense Cypher's blood and realised there's not a single trace of V inside of him. Curious, very curious indeed. With Fight Night approaching, now dubbed Unsafe Spaces, Marie has another plan to figure out what Cypher is all about. Kate will go meet with him and try using her abilities to get Cypher to talk, since apparently he's not a super. Meanwhile, Emma and her little crew of revolutionaries are gonna use their abilities to try and get the conversation recorded and maybe broadcast it for everyone to hear, even if he doesn't disclose what his involvement is with Odessa. If he just admits he's human, he might get kicked out of the university. A small win for our main protagonist. At the fight, Emma and the crew start getting into place, and Emma gives Ali her first superhero name, the Bushmaster. My god, that's brilliant. Harper steals somebody's abilities, allowing her to phase through solid matter and gets into the locked maintenance area so that Emma can access the emergency sprinkler system by shrinking down and going full Ant-Man on the place and attaching the small spy-like camera above Cypher and Kate. Meanwhile, Jordan and Marie are preparing for the big event in the locker room, having a heartfelt conversation. Even though Jordan isn't exactly trans, they tell the story of what it was like growing up with their particular set of powers, and the fears that came with it, of people irrationally hating them for being bi-gender, a commentary on people who are transphobic like TERFs. Their maintenance man arrives earlier than intended and turns back on the water in the pipes, which causes Emma to have to book it or risk drowning. This is where we get to see Bushmaster use her abilities to turn off the valves and save Emma just in time. Kate meets up with Cypher in her office just above the arena, and while he's ominously threatens her, in a way, it's not actually her life that's in danger, but Jordan's. It seems like he's got something more in mind than just having Marie defeat her. Emma pops out of the bathroom in the toilet of all places, just as Cypher excuses himself to go and take a shit. Oh no. Well, if you've ever been curious to what men do with their member when having a seat, you get a full view here. Jesus. Emma manages to scale the side of the bowl and slip out unnoticed before he starts doing his business though. The fight begins with Hammer Bro Vikor giving commentary about the two fighters. Of course, Jordan is set up to be the villain, very 80s WrestleMania, while Marie is of course being handed as the new golden child. Cypher has finished his business and rejoined Kate to watch the fight, when she starts to kind of manipulate him. She says that her powers have returned and they're sharper than before, which isn't actually true, but that she also now knows his secret. For a moment he looks at her, a little bit worried. When she says the words, "I know that you are human," he looks a bit confused. He plays along asking her what she wants to not divulge this information, and she says, "Let's end this fight now." He then flips the script on her, not even bothering to keep up the ruse, and asks her to move aside so the camera can see him more clearly. Oh dear. Down below in the arena, the crowd is getting anxious for the fight to start, and so Marie walks up to Jordan with a fierce determination and kisses him. The crowd erupts in boos, chucking garbage at the arena. Cypher laughs at Kate and the others, mocking them on camera, and tells them to watch this. Suddenly Jordan punches Marie across the arena and starts blasting her with light powers. Marie raises her hand to do blood bending when suddenly Cypher speaks, "I told you, the hand does nothing. It's all about the mind." But the words are coming out of Jordan's mouth. Holy shit, he's like Jean Grey. But if he doesn't have any V in his system, is he like Ryan, born with superpowers? Well, whatever plan Marie and Jordan had worked out for the fight. Cypher is going to ensure that this is the end of one of them. However, when Marie does finally begin to fight back, using her blood ability to hold Jordan in place, she's also able to kind of force Cypher out, allowing Jordan to regain consciousness and control over herself. Luckily, Marie stops just in time before killing her. This does cause Jordan to pass out though, ending the fight in a victory for Marie, without having to end the life of her girlfriend. The crowd once again cheers, so fickle. And back in the skybox, Cypher turns his attention to Kate, and she's scared shitless. Cut to black. And that wraps it up. Wow. I am more curious than ever about what Cypher is really about. I really want to know his backstory and the full scope of what he's able to do. I'm still holding off giving any kind of rating for the season until it finishes out, but so far it's definitely scratching that itch. This series has no qualms about killing off any characters though, so I think that people like Kate have their days numbered. But I also think that with that introduction of the crazy anti-soup flu from season 1 and the boys season 3, along with Marie's developing abilities, she's gonna be the one to take on Homelander. Maybe she's gonna use her powers to hold him in place while Butcher injects him with the disease, and then Marie manipulates his blood to spread it even faster throughout his body, effectively ending his reign of terror. Or she could die at the end of the season, as this show loves to leave things a little bit hopeless. Anyway, I want to thank you all for checking out the video. What did you think of the episode, and who is your favourite character in the series so far? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed our content, give us a like, share and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to ring that bell icon to stay up to date with all our latest releases. I have been your host Sarah, and thank you for being here with me today. I hope you have the most beautiful day, and take care and goodbye.